Today I'll be discussing John Stuart Mill's essay, The Subjection of Women, and exploring its arguments for gender equality. I'll also connect it to the historical context of the women's suffrage movement and analyze Mill's use of the rhetorical term ethos. Mills argues that the legal and social subordination of women is unjust and a major barrier to societal progress. He believes that true equality between sexes is essential for human improvement. Mill critiques the deeply rooted societal beliefs that support gender inequality and emphasizes the need for a fundamental change towards equality. Let's dive deeper into some of Mill's key arguments. For instance, Mill discusses how the subjugation of women limits their potential and consequently the potential of society as a whole. He uses logical reasoning to dismantle common arguments of his time that justified women's inferior status. By highlighting the irrationality of these arguments, Mill strengthens his case for equality. He also addresses the counter-arguments of his time, such as the belief that women are naturally suited for domestic roles. He refutes these claims by pointing out the lack of evidence and the influence of societal conditioning. This thorough approach not only strengthens his argument, but also anticipates and dismantles potential objections. To better understand Mill's arguments, I found an article by Ellen Du Bois on the women's suffrage movement in the 19th century. This movement was gaining momentum around the time Mills wrote his essay, highlighting the broader struggle for women's rights. The article provides context for the societal attitudes Mills was challenging and shows how his ideas were part of a larger push for gender equality. The women's suffrage movement wasn't just about the right to vote. It encompassed a broader fight for women's rights, including education, employment, and legal equality. Mill's essay can be seen as a philosophical underpinning of these broader goals, and by advocating for women's rights, Mills was aligning himself with a radical and transformative movement that sought to redefine social norms. The article discusses key events in the suffrage movement, such as the Seneca Falls Convention of 1848, which was a pivotal movement for the fight for women's rights. Understanding these events helps us see how Mill's work was both influenced by and influential to the movement he was fighting for. The article also explores the impact of the suffrage movement on subsequent feminist movement, and by situating Mill's work within this larger historical framework, we can appreciate the lasting significance and relevance it has. Ethos is a rhetorical appeal to the author's credibility, and Mills establishes his ethos by presenting himself as a knowledgeable and ethical advocate for women's rights. Mills uses his reputation as a respected philosopher and politician to lend weight to his arguments. He also references his long-held beliefs and personal reflections to build trust with his readers. For instance, Mills often references his personal experiences and observations, which adds a layer of authenticity to his arguments. He also cites historical examples and other respected thinkers to bolster his credibility. This strategic use of ethos makes his argument more compelling. By establishing his credibility, Mills makes his arguments more persuasive. Readers are more likely to consider his views seriously because they trust his expertise and ethical stance. Mill's use of ethos is particularly effective because he not only relies on his own credibility, but also appeals to the moral and ethical values of his audience. He challenges readers to reflect on their own beliefs and consider the ethical implications of gender inequality. Mill's references to his own marriage and his wife's intellectual contributions serve to humanize his arguments and demonstrate his personal commitment to the cause of gender equality. This personal touch enhances his credibility and makes his arguments even more relatable. Mill's ethos is further reinforced by his consistent advocacy for social reforms. His involvement in various progressive causes such as education reform and labor rights underscores his commitment to justice and equality, making his arguments in the subjection of women even more persuasive. In summary, John Stuart Mill's The Subjection of Women is a powerful argument for gender equality, and by understanding the historical context and analyzing Mill's use of ethos, we can appreciate the depth and impact of his work. Personally, I find Mill's arguments incredibly forward-thinking for his time, and his ability to foresee the benefits of gender equality for society as a whole is remarkable. His essay not only provides a historical perspective, but also offers timeless insights into the ongoing struggle for equality. I hope this analysis helps you engage more deeply with Mill's essay and the broader issues of gender equality as a whole. If you have any questions or thoughts, feel free to share them in the discussion section below the video.